My guy.
How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Can't complain.
Little New Year's Day recording.
Yeah. What better day to do it?
All right. Are you just, oh my gosh, so exhausted from your wild night out last night?
Totally, man. Nah, chilled, stayed in, went to bed at like 11.
Got the
I know
same.
you were out doing something. You didn't answer me till like noon. I know you were slumped.
Yeah, people get on my head about that, but I try like the longest I can to not get on my phone.
Nice. I love that.
But then, at a certain point, you got to be a functioning member of society. So
Yeah. Nah, I mean, most things are not urgent, you know what I mean?
you feel me.
So,
You
like,
feel me.
obviously it was not urgent anyway, so it didn't matter. But
You said what wasn't urgent?
I said, like, most messages are just not urgent. And, like,
Oh,
so it's like, people get up and fucking answer people at 7 in the morning. It's like completely unnecessary.
facts. No, that's facts. All right, so this may or may not go up on both of our social medias.
Hmm.
So let's start off with just intros, telling each other, telling the audience who we are.
Hmm. But
You want to go first?
yeah, so my name's Tyler Leclerc. I am owner of TJL Training. So I've been training out of the kind of Boston area for the last 7 to 8 years. A little backstory, started training when I was a senior in high school, started training just some local kids that I played with. Kind of built it up from there. Graduated high school, went to go play for 1 year in college. Got to college, realized, hey, I just don't like playing. B, I like training more, and I don't think college is the best place for me. So I decided to leave college, pursue training full time. Was able to build that up. Was training at literally any gym, anywhere that had a hoop, I would train there. Anything that could walk and shoot a basketball, I would train. For a couple of years, built that up, and then I was able to get one of my own gyms, and then I was able to build that up, get my second gym. So currently have two facilities, a couple people that work with me, train hundreds of players on a monthly, yearly basis, and yeah, make content, talk shit, and yeah,
You pay for it.
yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Maliki. I'm a trainer in St. Louis, Missouri. Um, Similar to you, I played in high school and then played basketball in college for a year. Um, After that first year, I was already kind of not really feeling it. More so was like gravitating towards the skill stuff. Like I enjoyed working out by myself more so than the practices and stuff. And then my sophomore year was 2020. So they had sent us home. And then I was like, all right, I'm just not trying to do all that. Cause like the fact that we may or may not have had a season, it was kind of up in the air. So I was just like, all right, I'm cool. Um, so then just at the crib, plotting the next move, working on myself, working on me as a coach and a trainer. And it's led to this. So I'm full-time skills training in year like two, three-ish right now. Definitely still in the early phases of it, but grateful for the blessings that are on their way and grateful for everything that I have right now. So it's been nothing but good vibes.
Love it.
And so then you had mentioned you have a couple people training under you,
Hmm.
and couple is new as of like a week or two ago.
Hmm. Yeah, so yeah, technically just started this week.
Yeah.
So,
Shout out to Lou.
yep, my guy.
So then, like, how much are you training on a daily basis?
So right now, especially because it's in season, it's a lot less. But my goal is to bring that down as far as I possibly can, excluding the summers. So I'll train for 8 weeks in the summer, and then Lou will do the majority of the other training out of the Lowell facility. So just so I can,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still train some people like that I already kind of train, like clients that I've had for years. I'm obviously not just going to abandon them for now. Um, but I want to hand most of it off to Lou so he can train and especially take on new clients, stuff like that. Because I mean, A, can't train everybody, and B, really everyone's not going to benefit from my training to the level that they could. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not necessarily worth my time or the highest, best use of my time in terms of where I want to go and also just for the business.
We were talking about that when I had pulled up to your gym like about a year ago or whenever that was, about how like the knowledge that you've accumulated, you could have like serviced a client like 8 years ago or whatever, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like the knowledge that you accumulated 8 years ago would have been good enough to get that player as good as they can be, type thing.
Exactly. So it's like kind of say you're a math teacher and you have somebody that's just learning, say you're like a calculus or physicist or something, and it's like you have someone just learning addition and multiplication. Like you as a teacher, that's not the best place for you because 99% of your knowledge is not going to be able to be taught. So it's like it's kind of the same thing in that sense of like most of the players aren't even at the level where I can use, say, the majority of the knowledge that I've been able to gain to benefit that player.
Right. All right, bet. So the all the like language that goes under this like style of training
Hmm.
that you do, that I do, that a ton of other trainers do, the CLA, DL, small sided games, variable practice, rep without rep, all of those could very well be a podcast in and of themselves.
Hmm.
But if we had to like, I guess summarize them, just that this whole style of training, how would
Hmm.
you kind of dense that down to a little paragraph or whatever?
I mean, I would say a lot of those things they're like tools in a toolbox, and I think it's being able to utilize those tools to exert the most amount of learning on a session, essentially. So I think a lot of people, in terms of just training in general, they just see it as, hey, let me just get a bunch of reps, let me just get in the gym, let me just go through the motions, essentially. But at the end of the day, when our jobs as trainers is to teach, and our goal is to help players learn and acquire skills. And at the end of the day, there's a science to acquiring skills, whatever it may be. Basketball is obviously a little bit different. There's different types of skills. Obviously, you can like from learning a language to basketball, those are very different things. Obviously, one's physical, one's more so mental. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. But at the end of the day, we're trying to help players acquire skills, and there's a science to that. So when I first started diving into that stuff, I was like, hey, like, how do we learn? That's kind of where I just started. Like, how do we learn so that way I can help these other players learn more effectively? And then I started getting into the science of it and realized, hey, like, there's a more optimal way to do this. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about, hey, this works or this doesn't work or the player's getting better. It's how much better are they getting versus how much better they could be getting. So a lot of times for a lot of players, there's a lot of potential left on the table because the time that they're putting in, they're not getting out as much as they possibly can because they're not practicing or structuring their practice the right way, which is exactly where like the constraints led approach, variability, differential learning, all that kind of stuff comes into play.
Yeah, I would say that like the variability aspect of it is kind of like the underlying like foundation of it.
Mhm.
Because we could do spot shooting, but I could throw you bad passes, and that's some variability.
Mhm.
And that's not like mind blowing, like that's not a mind blowing concept to think about.
Yeah.
You hit on a couple good points. One was you referred to it as like tools in the toolbox,
Hmm.
which I think gets lost in some of this depending on who you're talking to. Um, because they'll see like content that you post or I post or whoever posts, and it's like, okay, this is all you do. Like, no, there's a time and a place for everything.
Hmm.
Some block practice can be good here and there in certain situations. Um, and then the other thing you brought up was the fact that um, there needs to be a certain amount of challenge. And
Hmm.
I think that's a piece that is missing in a lot of players' workouts is, like you said, kind of going through the motions, and without challenge, there's no growth type of thing. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, and I think as humans in general, like we always want to exert the least amount of energy, especially like brain power. Like our bodies are essentially built to conserve energy. That's the way that we're built. So at the end of the day, your brain always wants to exert the least amount of effort possible. And effort and mental focus is the currency of learning skills. So to get better, you need to exert mental energy, but your body's always trying to exert the least amount of energy possible. The only way that you can increase that energy and that focus is by using things like variability and things like that to create more difficulty, to create that focus and that attention. So it's like if you're just going through the motions, your body's going to continuously spend less and less energy and focus on that, which is where that's why people don't improve because they're just going through the motions. Their brain shuts off. They don't have to think. And if you're not thinking, you're not exerting attention and focus to that, you're just not going to get better. So it's like you need challenge because of that.
And that's the main like road that kind of led me to discovering all this because I was that player that like was on the gun before school, was
Hmm.
putting the cones out, making moves, getting into my
Yeah.
shots, the bag work, like
Yep.
doing my thing. But then I felt like it just wasn't translating as much as it should.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where it started for me was like one day I sat down and was just like, let's just kind of take a step back, like take the red pill type of thing. Like
Yeah.
the game is played 5-on-5 full court, and then like there is a benefit to doing 1-on-0 training. But then I just got to like rethinking like there has kind of like you were saying, there just has to be a more effective way to do it.
Hmm.
And that was around the time where Kobe had done an interview and he was talking about how like in the summer he could go play pickup and get maybe like 15 shots up,
Hmm.
or he could go work out by himself and get 500 makes in.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, but that may not be equal, you know?
Yeah. No, exactly. Like I'd rather go and get 100 makes and pickup than, and obviously he would shoot way more than make way more shots than that. Obviously it's Kobe, he
Right.
ain't basketball, but like I would much rather players. It, obviously, again, everything is contextual. You have to speak in kind of aggregates or in terms of averages, but on average, I would probably prefer a player to go and get 100 makes playing in 5-on-5 or 3-on-3 than 500 makes by themselves. It's probably gonna be more beneficial.
That is a good point. That like I have a guy in college who he like when he's not working out with me, if he's playing basketball, it's pickup
Hmm.
every single time. So then to balance that out, okay, I mean, I'll do some like straight block practice, like make five at each spot just to kind of balance it out. Could I sprinkle in a little bit more variability? Maybe, but
Hmm.
it speaks to the point of kind of that like a seesaw, maybe balancing everything out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of like the casual argument to like all the stuff that we're talking about is like they always go back to Kobe, like, oh, he always trained by himself, like he never did all of that stuff. But to that point, like we were talking about with the attention and focus, like he has a maniacal ability to be able to focus on something where other people, if you're putting up those shots, that most players don't have the ability to focus for that long and that hard on that task. He's able to get something out of it because he's able to put such a high level focus into it. But also, that's what he did when he was already in the NBA. Like, if you look up just like kind of the way that he grew up and everything that he did, that's not what it was. Like most of it was him playing at the park. He played multiple other sports. He had a dad that was essentially in the league, then played overseas. So he's probably playing one-on-one against his dad all the time. Like the way that these, like if you just reverse engineer that the way that all these superstars grew up, most of them did not get better from cone work or just doing one-on-0 stuff. They just played a shit ton of pickup. None of them, probably almost none of them had a trainer until they were at least in college, if not in the NBA. So it's like you're just looking at what they did when they got there versus how they actually got to that point, which for most of them, it's just fucking pickup. It's just a lot of work.
Right. Now that context is huge. And we were texting about that a while back, about that tweet I had sent you, and you were saying
Oh yeah.
like all the other factors contribute to it. It makes me think of PJF had a podcast where he was talking about vertical jump and how he'll like ask players what they did to like
Hmm.
transform their vertical jump. And then in reality, it'll be, I think the example he used was they hit puberty. And so they
Yeah.
just like tap into this new strength. But
Clearly.
then they'll say, like, oh, bro, I just ate a shit ton of cereal or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like, kind
Like the
of
causation doesn't equal correlation or whatever it is.
exactly. Okay, so we've discovered it. And now what about implementing it? Because I feel like every trainer kind of goes through this process of like heavy block practice and then kind of
Mhm.
gradually reaching the point that you're at now.
Yeah, in terms of applying it, like most, I would say 50% of the people that start to understand it don't apply it well. I think the biggest problem people have, especially with like, I think the games-based approach is the easy way to kind of get into it, but that's a little bit different than the constraints-led approach. I think it like at the end of the day, again, you have to have that mindset, okay, like constraints, adding constraints is just a tool in the toolbox. At the end of the day, the way that I look at it is okay, we need to reverse engineer back off of what we're trying to accomplish. So most trainers, this is where I think they don't implement well, is they'll say, hey, okay, I know I want to do games-based approach or I want to do this style of training. So they just go on Instagram, they find drills, or they go on YouTube, they see small-sided games that I've done, and then they just put them into their practice. But they don't think, okay, I'm trying to accomplish this goal, so therefore I'm going to build a drill based on this. And I'm going to add this constraint so that way I get this effect. So it's like they're not reverse engineering it. They're just saying, hey, I saw this. I know this is good. I saw this drill. I'm going to implement it. Therefore, it is good. When in reality, if you're not doing it with a purpose or towards a direct goal, then it's essentially useless. So I think that's where most people go wrong is like they understand that it's good, but they just don't know how to apply it because they're not trying to fully understand the concepts and then apply them themselves. They're just trying to essentially copy and paste, which is a better, I guess, alternative to then just doing like block shooting and shit like that and just getting up shots. But at the end of the day, you have to fully understand it to be able to fully apply it, if that makes sense. And it does take trial and error. Like you do have to try it, you have to review it, you have to say, hey, how can I make this better? And then continuously learn like that. Like at the end of the day, it's just a skill. Just like we teach player skills, you have a skill as a trainer, and that's the ability to get the most value out of a certain block of time.
Yeah, you and Coleman talk about that a lot, the like copy and pasting drills and how like it's not really about the drills, it's more so identifying a problem and then like reverse engineering it. So I think
Exactly.
that's huge.
Yeah, like whatever we're trying to fix, that's the problem. And then the drill is simply just the tool that we use to solve that problem. The drill in and of itself is not that important.
Yeah. So you had touched on like the CLA versus games-based approach, and that's something I still am like working through myself. So
Hmm.
like, so if we're doing 3v3 and then we're going like 3v3 off a handoff,
Hmm.
um, you don't have to hand it off. You can like reject it and get downhill, or you can hand it off to them. So that would be games-based approach.
Hmm.
And then if I say, okay, it's the same drill, except we're adding the constraint of you can, it's like mid ranges only or 2 foot finishes only, then like bang, that becomes constraints led approach.
That would be more constraints. Again, it all depends on, hey, what are you trying to solve for? You know what I mean? Like, okay, you can add certain constraints like that. You can add a constraint in terms of, hey, you want to get 3 passes. Once you get 3 passes, the play's dead. Um, Stuff like that. But again, I would instead of saying, okay, hey, let's turn this drill into a constraint-based approach, it would be like, all right, what are we trying to solve? And then build a constraint-based drill outside of that. You know what I mean? So I think that's another mistake that people make is, oh, just because I throw like a constraint or like something like that, it immediately becomes like a constraint-based drill where it's still probably games based. There's now you're adding constraints to it. It doesn't necessarily make it a constraint based drill. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
So
that's
constraint
interesting.
based is to try to lead to a little bit more like self-discovery. So yeah, you're leading to a little bit more self-discovery in terms of like the 2 foot thing, but then there again, it's okay, can we build a better drill to solve that problem? You
The
know what I mean? As
problem
opposed to,
of becoming better off 2 feet.
yeah, like we could probably make a better constraint-based approach drill based on that.
I see what you're saying.
Hmm. So
Okay,
it
that
kind of
makes
just
sense.
it kind of depends on Like that's another skill you need to have as a trainer is also being able to be in the moment and being able to see that and adapt to it. So like say we're doing that drill where it's okay, we're going 3-on-3 handoff. Okay, I see a problem. This is something we're trying to fix. This drill isn't necessarily solving that problem. How can we adjust this? How can we fix it? How can we maybe add a different start, add different constraints, add different rules, different spacing, all that kind of stuff.
That's fire. Um, yeah, because my OCD kicks in sometimes of like, okay, we're playing this game to 10.
Mhm.
We're gonna get 10 and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
But something I've started doing recently is like it's not about the amount of reps or the amount of points. It's about the improvement and stuff. So yeah, like if we're playing to 10, but we're at 6, and okay, we've not seen the affordance to finish off 2 feet 4 times in a row.
Yep.
Let's do that and then come back to it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, because a lot of times players need that context. So that's something that I'll do too. That's also talks to like the play drill play model, which I really like for a lot of development stuff. So that way, hey, maybe we start with a 2-foot drill and more of a one-on-one scenario, and then we can expand it to the 3-on-3 because they did the 2-foot focus thing before. Now they're going to be looking for that a little bit more actively than they would be if we just went right into it without using that before. So
When
it gives them a
you
little.
when you do play drill play, will you do the same play game, play and then drill it and then go back to the same game or
It
switch it up?
depends. So like if we're playing the game and I'm trying to get them to see certain things and they're not, and then they do that, then maybe we go back. But if they're doing a good job in the first part, okay, then maybe we expand it in the next. Kind of all depends. Like depends on how the group's doing.
All right. Okay. Basketball myths slash rethinking common just ideas or like catchphrases in the basketball zeitgeist in the
I mean,
discourse.
I think number one is just like the 10,000 hours rule, which kind of goes in place of like, hey, just get up a shit ton of reps. And also just the thought process of just like, hey, as long as you work hard, you're gonna be all right. Like I love when coaches are like, hey, you just gotta work hard, it'll work out. Like for some of you, it ain't gonna work out no matter how hard you work. Like basketball might just not be for you, and it's fine. Now you can obviously learn a lot of good qualities and life lessons through basketball, but that doesn't mean basketball is gonna fucking work out for you. Like, so I think kind of all of those things just encapsulate what we were talking about before of like, hey, you got to train smarter. Like just getting in the gym is not enough. Most people just do it just so they can check a box. They can feel good about themselves. Hey, I put in work today, I worked out. Cool, but you got nothing out of it. Like that's like you might as well have just shown up to the gym, hopped on the treadmill, leave, and said, "Hey, I went to the gym today." Doesn't mean you got stronger, doesn't mean you got bigger. Yeah, you showed up, you stepped foot in the door, you checked in, but you didn't get better. So I think that's like the biggest thing for 90% of players is they just want to feel like they're doing something. They just want to put up shots, get a sweat, feel like they're getting better, even though for most people, they get better just because they get older. Point blank. Like you were talking about, like most people get a higher vertical just because they hit puberty. Same thing. Like people get taller and stronger faster. You put a ball in their hand, you do have anyone do something over a certain amount of time, they're gonna naturally just get better at it. Doesn't mean what you're doing is working or it's effective or it's the most way like beneficial thing you could be doing. So
Yeah, I remember Kyrie did a like documentary interview type thing. It was like early, like his rookie year or something. And he was saying he used to like go to his high school and he would be in the gym for 7 hours.
mhm.
And I'd be like, damn, maybe I don't love the game like that. I need to be doing that. Like, but it's like, no, because for 5.5 of those hours, you're probably just messing
Check.
around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but like most players think, hey, I need to do that to get better. And it's like that's the only way to get better. So they just think, hey, as long as I'm in the gym and I spend time, then I'll get better. But it's just not. And I think a lot of like people look too much into that stuff, and a lot of it is just exaggeration. Like Kyrie was probably in the gym 7 hours a handful of times. So we just said he was always in the gym for 7 hours. And then players think because they're not in the gym for 7 hours every day, they're not getting better.
And then they develop Oscar Slaughters at 12 years old.
Exactly.
And
And
you're
then they
like,
can't even
damn.
play basketball, even if they were good.
Right. I think the 10,000 hour rule is a classic.
Yeah.
Alex's podcast, Transforming Basketball, had an episode where they were talking about the storage problem, I think is how they referred to it as, of like 10,000 hours. Like, okay, so one dribble pull-ups till my arms fall off
Mhm.
because I need to get my 10,000 hours, but then I need a counter to that, and then I need the catch and shoot, and then I need to read a closeout. Like there's
Mhm.
only so many hours in a day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like that's assuming that everyone is practicing the exact same. That's also assuming that everyone learns at the same exact rate. Like, and that's also assuming that genetics don't play a role. Like, do you think LeBron has to practice the same amount to get to the NBA as little Johnny, who's 5'5" and has a 17-inch vertical? Like, no. The genetics play probably 75% of it for basketball. Like, if you're under 6 feet, you can practice for 20, 30,000 hours. You're still probably not going to make the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, as hard as you want to try. Sorry. It's what it is. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
no, as long as I put my hours in. I'm like, no, it's not how it works. But, and also they've just done studies on it. So it's not even just like, oh, making the NBA. It's just like people are going to learn different. If someone has an IQ of 140, they're going to learn a lot faster than someone with an IQ of fucking 70. Like, the 10,000 hour rule does not apply there. It's completely
Yeah.
different. And even just like, again, getting back to the way people practice, the way people grow up, their mindsets, like where you grew up, the resources you have access to, all that's going to play a role. What you could put in 5,000 hours and be in the same spot someone puts in 20,000. But it's also just the average. Like that means some people become experts, quote unquote, within 5,000, and some people it takes 20. So it's like literally by definition with the average, that almost breaks the rule. You know what I mean?
Right. That
Because it's saying it
was,
takes 1,000 hours when if you did that same like thought process, okay, that means for some it takes 15, for some it takes 5.
yeah. And then we just kind
It
of,
takes 10.
as a society or whatever, just kind of ran with the number 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with a college coach the other day
Mhm.
about like recruiting and what does he look for in players. And then he gave me this list of things. One of them was motor.
Mhm.
And when he said that, I just like instinctually said, "Oh yeah, you know, it's the old adage, you can't coach effort." And then I started thinking to myself, like, well, I don't know. Maybe. Do you think you can coach effort?
It depends. You definitely can to a certain degree, but you can't, I don't think all the way. Because that's effort's mostly going to come from like passion and desire to do something. So you can't like coach that, but you can definitely influence it and teach a portion of it for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can teach it all the way like you can other things.
Where my mind went was, like you said, like if someone just doesn't enjoy being there, there's only
Mhm.
so much I can do. Like if they're
Yeah.
not really into it, it is what it is.
Hmm.
Where my mind went was like if I'm training someone and their girl just broke up with them the day
Hmm.
before, they're not gonna be 100% in the flow state, rocking out, doing their thing the next day. So
Hmm.
then as a coach, I can take the time, hopefully before those sessions, before that session, to
Hmm.
understand, like we're talking about their background, how they grew up.
Hmm.
Did they have older siblings, younger siblings? What were the vibes like at the house? Like, understand what kind of makes them tick, understand their psychology.
Hmm.
And then I can have the right tool in the toolbox to bring out to kind of get them out the mood or just like unlock something.
Hmm.
So I think in that way, in those type of situations, you might be able to, but like you said, if someone just doesn't enjoy it, only so much we can do.
Yeah. I think to that point of like obviously like psychology and stuff, you can certain people can teach it more or less. So like obviously the coaches that sit there and say you can't teach it, they're just lying to themselves. I think they can't teach it, but you can obviously teach it to a degree. So it's like how much better you are as a coach is going to influence the degree to which you can coach effort, more or less. So, like if you're a smarter, better coach, you're going to be able to get more out of that player, which at the end of the day is a telltale sign of a good coach, is what you get out of these players. So if you can get the most, now that might be they don't really care, but you can get a little bit, or you can get someone who really does care and you can get the absolute best. So at the end of the day, a good coach can get the absolute best out of a player, and part of that is effort. So you'll get the most that they could possibly give, whether that's them not caring or them caring a lot. That depends on the player, but
Right. Each player kind of has a ceiling.
yep, good coach can hit that ceiling,
Yes.
regardless of how high or low.
Do you have any other myths or common just things that have been baked into the discourse?
I mean, basically everything. I mean, I think another one is like just because like literally almost everything everything that's common is pretty shit. But um I would say one of them is just because something's difficult, that means it's beneficial or good. So like a lot of coaches will be like, oh, this is a tough drill. Like you're gonna get tired. So that means it's getting you better when that doesn't necessarily correlate. So I think a lot of coaches love to run people to death and have them do conditioning shooting drills where it's really difficult and they're breathing heavy and they're sweating. So it's like, oh, it's a really good drill. In reality, that's not true.
Yeah, using the fatigue as like a way to make it difficult.
Yeah, like that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting better. Now, you can use that as a tool to help people get better in certain instances, but doesn't necessarily guarantee it.
One I had was the classic, you got to use your legs if you're missing short.
Oh yeah.
That's a
Nice,
classic.
nice internal cue to fuck up their automatic processing.
Yeah. The way I look at it is, I forget where I heard this, but so like if you have a ball in your right hand and then your left hand, your palm is facing up, and then you dribble the ball is going to hit the ground. And then as it's on its way up, you hit it up with your hand.
Hmm.
It's going to go pretty high and pretty effortlessly.
Hmm.
Whereas if you do the same thing, ball hits the ground, it goes up, it reaches its apex, and then goes down, and then you hit it. It's
Hmm.
not going to go as far, and you're going to have to work a lot harder. And that's
Yep.
my thought process with it is it's less about the legs and more so just about the timing and fluidity, everything being synchronized.
Yep. Yeah. Sequence is definitely extremely big. It's all just energy flow at the end of the day. So like it's like trying to do like a shoulder press, but as you're shoulder pressing, you're squatting. Like you're technically not moving the bar. Like you're exerting a lot of effort, but you're not moving anywhere. So it's like kind of the way that I look at it. It's just like energy and force at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's all about how you organize it. Like,
And energy transfer.
yep.
When you fix shots, are there common like archetypes of things to fix?
Yeah, I think number one is just like sequencing, and it's really just simplify. Mostly it's simplifying. So it's usually not adding things to player shots, it's taking things away and simplifying the motion. So that way we can get a more efficient energy sequence. So as opposed to the ball going fucking forwards away from the body, then backwards behind their head and then shooting it, it's like, all right, let's just get in a straight line. It's like keep the ball tighter, move it up straight line, shoot it out straight. Like that's it. Now, obviously, the reason why these players do that is what you kind of need to figure out. Like, what's the root cause of this? Could it be for some of them, it could be because they hurt their left ankle when they were younger and then they put a ton of weight on their left foot, or their shoulders extremely tight, so therefore they can't keep the ball in. They have to bring it out. So it's like, all right, maybe we got to fix that, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So it's like get to the root cause, fix that. That is usually one thing that you need to target, and when you do that, you can almost fix other problems because of that. Whereas I think a lot of people, for example, say their follow throughs messed up. Most people are going to be like, oh, okay, we need to fix the follow through first. When in reality, their follow through might be messed up because they don't get enough of a simplified shot motion, so they don't have enough energy. So because they don't have enough energy, they have to chuck the ball harder, which gets their follow through to go sideways. So it's like if we just fix the energy sequence first, it's gonna be a lot easier to fix the follow through. But I think a lot of people just start because they see the follow throughs messed up, or start there. When in reality, you're not going to be able to actually fix it until you fix the root cause.
And does that sequence have the same progression every time? Like if it's the follow through, then that means it's the like way they lift the ball up. If the way they lift the ball up is messed up, it might be their base. Is it the same like progression or just does it depend?
It depends, yeah. Some players do certain things. Like some people might have messed up follow through because they bring the ball up left, where some people might have a messed up follow through because they bring it behind their head. They don't have enough energy. So it could be like two completely different things that's affecting or causing the same problem.
Yeah. I was trying to remember before I hopped on here the when you went to Rome. That was
Mhm.
like a handful of months ago.
I went the beginning of this month and I went in September. So like 3 months ago.
Yeah. And then that was the one you did the clinic in, wasn't it?
Hmm.
And was that your first clinic camp training session? I mean, you trained Manny overseas probably, but like first like clinic that you did overseas like that?
Second actually. So I did one in Canada like 2 years ago. Um, but that was my first one. So this is technically my second.
Okay.
But I mean, Rome is completely different than Canada. Canada is basically the US. So
A
I
lot
mean, it's
nicer from what I hear, the people.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, so what would be the main like differences between Rome basketball and here?
I mean, I would say the biggest difference in terms of like overseas is just physicality level. So like the athletes are much more developed here than they are there. Like from a height perspective and also just from a like strength perspective. And I would also just say like athletic development, like their ability to run, jump, move, I would say is probably better here. I think because more people just take sports so seriously. So they're have so much more access to it. There's way more trainers, coaches, programs, all that kind of stuff than there is there. So people just don't take it as seriously.
So the like physicality and other like physical attributes. What about the skill level? Is the US on top?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. In terms of pure skill, but that doesn't always equate to being a better basketball player. Like having technical
Yeah.
skill, being a better dribbler, or being a better shooter doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a better basketball player.
Yeah. I went to Rome and Italy for the first time about a year ago, last March.
Hmm.
Um, and I haven't been to like haven't ran a clinic or anything overseas yet.
Hmm.
But when I was over there, I was walking and I saw these kids playing soccer,
Hmm.
and that was noteworthy to me.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I just live in a bubble here. I live in the city over here.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to see kids just like playing sports in the street. But I feel like over here, they're on Fortnite and TikTok and they're not really out there just
Yep.
being kids.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. When I was over there, I noticed way more people playing outside. Like, I didn't see any younger kids with the phone. Like, there'd just be kids outside playing, running around. That's like, which is normal. It's what they should be doing, as opposed to, like you
Yes.
said, being inside, all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, there's so many different factors at play. Obviously, cultural and socioeconomic and all that kind of stuff that influence that. But as a whole, I would say over there, they're still, like, I would say 20 years in that sense, where when we were growing up, we were outside playing. Versus kids now, they're just not doing that as much.
What year were you born?
1998.
Okay. I was 2001. And I feel like my generation was kind of, or generation, whatever, like age group was kind of the last of the elite, like
Hmm.
phones. And I got my iPod Touch when I was in sixth grade.
Yeah.
So like I still have memories of knocking on my next door neighbor's
Before, yeah.
house, well, knocking on his door to see if he could go play outside and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like honestly, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like that is like now I'm able to watch something on YouTube or like watch some film and I can like
Hmm.
feel myself do it.
Hmm.
'Cause, bro, I was playing like every sport under the sun as
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
It just makes a huge difference.
100%. And yeah, and I do think that there will be an effect down the road on that, I think, but haven't lived it out yet enough to see those effects, but I think
Yeah,
we'll see them eventually,
that's a good point.
especially with COVID and everything, masks, keeping kids away from friends, social skills, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've had family that they're like young and they were like during all that, they were at the crib. So like you said, like the social skills and stuff, like they can't pick up on like facial expressions and the social intelligence and stuff. It's real interesting.
Yeah.
But the so like overseas and stuff, the other thing I noticed was I would be going out and people weren't on their phones.
Hmm.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. A lot more people actually converse as opposed to just on the phone. I mean, in general, it's just way slower.
Yeah.
Like people aren't like over here, it's everything's just work, 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 which is good. Like it's go to America, make your money, and but for quality of life, it's not beneficial.
That was the part that was most appealing to me was that lifestyle.
Hmm.
Just kind of it felt like I was floating,
Yeah.
just going
Like
slow.
for example, just to kind of for people listening that haven't been or anything, like to highlight the difference. My friend who lives there, and this is what everyone does, and at least in Italy, like in August, they don't work. Like almost everyone takes the whole month off.
Why why
He's
August?
there's a like some sort of holiday during that time of month where you like they celebrate like taking time off from work or whatever. So a lot of people just don't work, but he does the same thing that we do, has his own apartment, so like he's able to afford a nice apartment that he bought in the city off of training income, and then he takes the entire month of August off. He just drove around in his car, lived out of his car all around Italy, hiked, did a whole bunch of shit, didn't work at all. Barely checked his phone, just chilling. Like I've never heard of anyone in the United States do that. Now, obviously, you have the people who live out of their vans and do that kind of stuff, but like not just like, hey, like I'm just gonna go fuck off for a month, you know?
Right. Yeah, taking the month off is crazy. See,
Crazy.
but that's the thing though, is to us, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But then
But
to
almost
them,
everyone
it's
does.
like,
Yeah.
it's whatever.
Yeah. I forget what
So
it's called. I want to look up the name of it.
yeah, I'm trying to find out what holiday this is. I got to start celebrating.
Yeah, Ferragosto. Celebrated August 15th.
The holiday is on the 15th,
Yep. I think that's essentially like our Labor Day. So
and then they just say, fuck it, and take the whole month off.
yeah. Like that's why it's not good to go there in August because a lot of places, like even in Rome, like obviously more of the tourist places are open, but if you go outside the city, then
So I had made a reel last week. I was shooting on this hoop that was busted up. Rim was bent, backboard
hmm.
was like off center, net was hanging upside down. And it felt very similar to the idea of the video was like it felt similar to traveling to a new place, is it just
Hmm.
kind of like gives you this new perspective on your life.
Hmm.
How would you say that traveling has changed the way you look at your life in Massachusetts?
I mean, I think you just realize how much more opportunity there is, different styles of life. So getting exposure to that, like, hey, how do you actually want to live your life? Because most people, you grow up in one area, people barely leave. I think it's only 7% of people who have passports in the United States, which is not everyone. 7% of people in the United States have been outside the United States, not including Mexico or Canada. So like most people never get to actually leave North America and see like other styles of life, the way that people live, what's possible, like what you can achieve, how much there is to see, how much there is to do, all that kind of stuff. So it just gives you a much better perspective and gives you much more. I think the more experiences you have, the better, overall. Um, it's not going to hurt you to see different things and that kind of stuff. It's only going to broaden your horizons and stuff like that. So I think just overall, for me, it's just given me a better idea of what I really want out of life. I think a lot of people realize it's more than just working and making money. Obviously, you have to make money. I think you have to get to a point where you have to make enough money so that way you can focus on other things like, hey, I want to learn these hobbies or I want to dive into philosophy and art or whatever it may be. Like you have to be able to make money to delve into those types of things. And I think you realize it's honestly easier like to do that other places. I think at least my mindset and my perspective is make money in the United States and then take it elsewhere and go live that lifestyle somewhere else and you can live less stressed and higher quality life, better food, better people.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, bro, is the food. I know my question was about like bigger picture life, but I just have to talk about that for a minute, man, because the
Yeah, man,
food is
that's a whole podcast in itself. Even just when you get down the rabbit hole of why, like not just tastes better, but just like everything about it,
yes.
quality.
Yeah, I felt like every ingredient had intention,
Hmm.
is the way it felt to me. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's not the chemicals are not in that food like they are here. So like you can eat and you don't feel like shit.
yeah. Yeah,
So
because
like
then I had
I was just
landed.
talking,
Go ahead.
I was just talking to Manny today, and he was talking about every time he comes back from overseas, like when he starts eating here, he feels terrible. Like it's just because like he's going wherever he's going, he's eating just real food, no chemicals in the rice, there's no chemicals in the meat. Like it's all just organic, healthy shit. Like we eat here and you have to get organic food to just eat real food. Like there you just buy it. Like it doesn't have to be organic. It is organic. Like it's just real. So it's like when you put all that shit in the food, like that's why everyone's lethargic. Like you can eat the same amount of calories here, same amount of calories there. You are going to feel drastically and look drastically different. It's
Yeah.
just a fact.
When I had landed back in the US, there was like a layover to get back to St. Louis.
Hmm.
Landed in Dallas, was chilling in the airport, so I got some Subway.
Terrible mistake.
Dude, put me on my
That's
ass.
bottom of the barrel too, though. Like,
Subway?
yeah, I wouldn't say bottom of the barrel, but
I feel like if you're gonna eat out, Subway's like, yeah, like you said, not bottom of the barrel.
yeah, but it ain't. It's funny though, because also you talk about like airport food in like Europe and stuff, completely different than airport food in the United States. Like I've
Y-
eaten good, high quality meals at airports in like Europe versus the United States. It's like McDonald's, Burger King, Starbucks, and that's it. Subway. Like there's no good healthy options.
Yeah. Yeah, my go-to, if I might eat out, which is rare, but it'll be Chipotle.
Hmm. Yeah.
I feel like that's top tier, all things considered.
Yeah, it's better than it's probably one of the better fast foods for sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of a good segue because you're talking about like the US and the work, work, work mentality and all this. Um, so this is a question that I've had for you for
Hmm.
a minute.
Hmm.
So back in April,
Hmm.
you did a Q&A on your Instagram,
Yep.
and one of the questions was, what do you do for fun?
Hmm.
And you replied with a picture of your bookshelf
Yeah.
and you said, get better. I was like, damn, bro, that's fire. So if you want to like break down everything you do in like a typical day, you can.
Hmm.
I would imagine it's training on the court, on the laptop, working on the business, reading, working yourself out, and like a couple other things. That lifestyle,
Hmm.
is that is that you like having discipline and I really like I'm not really I don't really feel like reading. but I know it's going to pay off for me in the long run? Or is it just what you enjoy doing?
I mean, it's definitely what I enjoy doing. Um, but that's not to say that every day is like every day I want to do it. Like, I mean, I've built it to the point where it's just second nature. Like, that's just what I do. You know what I mean? But I also think, I mean, this is a whole nother like rabbit hole in terms of like happiness and joy and all that stuff. But it's like most people judge or want to do things that make them feel good in the moment versus like I value more so or see happiness as more so fulfillment. Like, and also people view, okay, I want to make sure that I'm happy now versus like I value more so dying happy based on my achievements and the way that I've lived my life more than being happy now. You know what I mean? So it's like I think a lot of people have a misconstrued view of what happiness is and what they're trying to get out of life and live more so moment to moment as opposed to like on the long term horizon. So, I mean, that's kind of like a very basic way to like explain that, but I think most people haven't really actually thought about what is happiness to them. Most people's happiness is just like, oh, I feel good right now because I'm watching a fucking football game. So that's good. It's like, also, I don't think as men we're built to just, our primary goal shouldn't be happiness in the short term.
I think as men, our purpose is to work.
Yeah.
That's something that I've discovered maybe. I don't know. It just like resonated with me recently. Because I went down a little season of my life where I was dominoes and YouTube and
Hmm.
like it's crazy too because I heard something from someone on YouTube that was saying like everyone's devil speaks to them in the way that they know like
Hmm.
how to get them walking down the path that's like less than ideal.
Hmm.
And so I was justifying that with whatever, like it's just this, it's I'm in like a calm season of life and you know, action versus activity, um, which is a value that I stand on, action versus activity, like doing a bunch of busy work out of insecurity probably isn't going to get you as far as opposed to being confident and like standing on what you do and actually like taking action. But I kind of got that it became off balance, out of
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
Um, and so I spent a lot of time dominoes and YouTube. And
Hmm.
then I kind of got to the point where it's like you said, the happiness or whatever, but then you reach a point where it just doesn't fulfill you.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like you said, I feel like as men, that's what I get my fulfillment out of is work.
Hmm. And even if you're not working to make money, like working on yourself, like to become better, like reading more books to become more knowledgeable on certain subjects or things even that you're just interested in or learning another language or working out to be in better shape, like all of these things, like that's work in and of itself, you know what I mean? So like that is what I find enjoyment in getting better. Like those are my hobbies. And for some things it's hey, like I want to go down this rabbit hole and learn this and like learn about physics or learn about fucking history or whatever it may be. Like to me, that's enjoyable. Like other people, whatever you think, like they can say, "Oh, well, my hobby is watching TV." Like find something better, like something productive to society or something. You know what I mean? So, because I just don't think you people are gonna say, "Oh, it makes me happy." It doesn't make you happy in the long term. In the short term, it does. It makes you feel good, but it's not. I wouldn't say happiness. It's joy. That's a feeling. Happiness is not necessarily a feeling. Joy is an emotion. Happiness, I wouldn't say is a it's a more so a state of mind than an emotion. And people can feel joy but not happiness. They can feel joy because they're doing something that's releasing dopamine, but they're not happy that they're doing it or proud in a sense.
So you associate happy with like the short term dopamine hit type stuff.
I would say more so like people I would consider more joy. Like that's like the short term. Like that's joy is an emotion. Which I would say happiness is more of like something that you create. Like you can be doing something you don't enjoy, but being happy because you know you're building towards something,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Because you can also be eating Domino's and sitting on the couch and feel joy because it feels good in the moment, but know deep down, like I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So,
So you had mentioned like there's certain days where you don't feel like reading,
mhm.
which I guess is just human nature.
Maybe I would say most days I want to.
Yeah.
Um, there's days less degree, you know what I mean? But I still, at least bare minimum, get some pages in, you know what I mean?
Because then, like you said, at this point, it's just a habit. So even if you're not like completely 100% in the mood to do it, it's just
You
autopilot.
you just do it, yeah. Like you brush your teeth every day, you don't think about it. You do
Yeah.
certain things every day and you just don't think about it. So, and that get back to the thing we were talking about earlier is like the human brain always wants to revert back to the least amount of energy. So it like that's why it builds habits. It builds habits so it doesn't have to think.
Mhm.
So as long once you build the habit, you just like it takes a little while to build a habit. Once you build it, it takes a lot less energy to maintain it.
Like a snowball
Exactly. Once you
pushing
get
it
it
down the
going,
hill.
it's just gonna keep going.
Yeah. All right. So books is what we were just talking about.
Hmm.
What would you say are, you could go like top five all time, or maybe three to five that are like the foundation for how you live your life, or just a
Hmm.
handful that have been like the most impactful for
Um, let's see. I have a ton. Hold on. In my room right now. I have like a one shelf that's like my favorite ones. Um, hmm. I would say Meditations is definitely up there as like one of the main ones. That's just like a Stoic philosophy book. I would say Psychology of Money is a good one. Um, Actually, I have a list on my phone. The one that I just read recently, that's one of my all-time favorites, is The Complete Man. I think it's called El Discreto. The Complete Man. That's one of my favorite ones I've ever read.
you.
The Four Agreements is fantastic. One of my favorite ones, which I don't think most people would really enjoy, but 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. That was a really good one. I think handful of books on Austrian economics have been really good, just to like actually understand the way the world works in terms of money and how fucked up it is. And then I think you start to understand a lot of certain things in terms of like politics and things like that, like fiat money and all that stuff. And if you want to get depressed for like 2 weeks, you read The Creature of Jekyll Island. I've read that one 3 times. That one will ruin your month. I'd be looking at the world differently.
You said what was the term you used? Austrian
Austrian
money?
economics.
Yeah, what Austrian as in like Australia?
No, Austrian in terms of Austria. It's a country in Europe.
Oh, I'm not a big geography guy.
It's all right. No, it's like we have like the way that the current world operates is more so on like Keynesian economics, which is basically just a fucking made up way to just say like, hey, print more money out of thin air. Versus Austrian economics is more so on just the way that we actually see value in the way the world would really work on like a true monetary system. So like when you understand like, hey, how do people actually see value and what is money and what is currency, like kind of get to like the foundation of because like if I was to ask you like what is money, what would your answer be?
Um, I mean, practically it's just paper, but I would say it's an exchange of value is the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's a medium of exchange at the end of the day. But and also like the big thing is money or like stored like saving money is stored and time and energy. So like when you have money in the bank, that's stored time and energy. When you think about it, like that you worked, you learned, you did a whole bunch of stuff to be able to earn that money, and that's just stored time and energy. And obviously, being able to make money is directly correlated to the amount of value that you create. The more value you create, the more money you make. And obviously, the more you learn and all that kind of stuff, the more money you're able to make. So, but then obviously it just kind of gets you down a rabbit hole. But again, most people work for money, but they don't even actually know how to define money, which is like, if we're going to get down to first principles. It's like, all right, what am I working for? Let me understand what I'm actually working for right now.
How would you define money?
I mean, money is store time and energy. It's also a medium of exchange. It's a store of value. But would you, I would, because money and currency are two different things. Like US dollar, you can't necessarily claim it to be a store of value because the US dollar has lost 99% of its value over the last 100 years. Wouldn't necessarily call that a store of value. So people are trying to store their money or hold money that's continuously losing value every single year.
And
So,
so is that um is that a reason to invest, is what you're saying? Like stocks and crypto and whatever?
I mean, that's why people have to. You don't have a choice. If you
Yeah.
don't, you lose purchasing power, you're gonna lose. So like, say you have like over 100 years, say you had $100,000 100 years ago. That's essentially worth $1,000 today in terms of purchasing power.
I thought it goes up, like
No.
inflation,
Yeah, the technical amount, but the
right?
purchasing power is down.
As in like I want to purchase a product.
Yeah, like $100,000 100 years ago would buy you fucking a whole entire skyscraper
Oh,
in New
I
York.
see what you're saying.
$100,000 today would not even buy you a fucking apartment in New York City.
I see what you're saying.
Like if you made $100,000 100 years ago and you try to hold it in a bank, you're getting fucked.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Interesting.
So, but then you just go down like why, and then you start getting angry.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
whole nother.
There's a lot of rabbit holes we can go down. I remember you had posted another Instagram story of two books. One of them you mentioned El Discreto, and then the letters from Rockefeller.
Yeah, that's another one I would put top five. That's a great one.
I just ordered both of those.
Hell yeah, dude. Those are both in the top five. Like
Hmm.
both in the top five. Like the letters to John D. Rockefeller to his son. Like it's a simple. It's not complicated. Like it's not like a shit you've never heard before. But just the way that he words it and who it's coming from, and the fact that he wrote it so long ago too, and like what he accomplished makes it so much more powerful. Like he's literally the richest person to ever live in the United States, like adjusted for inflation. He's richer than Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Like he came from like the poor of the poor. So it's like it's crazy.
Hmm. I'm excited to dive in
Yeah.
for
It's those
sure.
are two top books. So definitely let me know when you read those.
For sure. All right. So last thing we'll end with two things. One, everything that's happened at TJL Training in the last 6 months, something like that. It seems like it's like a new era,
Hmm.
a new leaf. Is that the way you see it? Are you excited about it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just a natural evolution in life. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So definitely excited for it.
All right. So now so to wrap it up, let's go any like last message you have? It could be summarizing a theme that we've touched on a couple times, any like words of wisdom type of deal. Anything you want to get off your chest, anything you want to speak on, the floor is yours. And then where people can find you, Instagram, YouTube, all that.
Mhm. Um, I mean, I would just say for anyone, whether it's player, coach, trainer, like just broaden your horizon, learn more shit, like read more books, travel, see shit, because there's so many different ways you can live your life, and like I think most people are just so fucking boxed in to just doing the same shit as everybody else. So figure out what that is. The only way you can figure it out is by seeing a lot of shit, experiencing a lot of shit, and then figuring out, hey, what kind of speaks to me, and then live true to that. So, because most people are fat and depressed, so if you follow the crowd, you're gonna end up just like them.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and find me on Instagram, TJL Training, YouTube, TJL Training.
Do you do Twitter at all?
No, I did. I had it, but I think my account got hacked like 3 years ago. But I haven't posted anything on there, but can't get back in. But
Hmm.
I'm on personal Twitter, but don't really tweet too much.
Yeah. I'm not a big tweeter.
Yeah. If I did, I would just get in trouble. So I'm just
All
hold
right.
off for
Well, Tyler, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Appreciate you sticking through the confusion of time zones.
yes, sir, man. As always.
Yes, sir. Peace.